previously we talked about angle bisectors. Now let's say that we drew the angle bisectors inside of a triangle. What would happen? Well, if we drew the angle bisectors in a triangle, we would end up with an intersection inside of the triangle. And I'm highlighting the 3 angle bisectors inside of this triangle, and they intersect at point P. Point P is what we call a point of concurrency. This is the point of concurrency. And that's just the point of intersection. And the yellow, these are angle bisectors. All right, and of course, since we know what angle bisectors do, that point is going to be the same distance away from each side. In this case, they're going to be the same distance away from each side of the triangle, right? Similar to what we noticed in the previous examples. So the green lines that I highlighted are all equal to each other, would all equal to each other. So let's use this information to solve some problems. So it says here, find each measure of J, or if J is the incenter, okay? And I failed to mention in the previous slide that the point where angle bisectors intersect, we call it the incenter. That's the point of concurrency. That's what we call the point of concurrency, when angle bisectors intersect. All right, so remember, I'm going to go ahead and highlight the angle bisectors. So this is an angle bisector, this is an angle bisector, and this is the angle bisector, because each angle is being cut in half. Since they told us that it's an incenter, we automatically know that there's angle bisectors in the picture. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight the angles. This angle is equal to that one, this one is equal to this one, and these angles are congruent like that. So I just like to notate my picture to see if that helps me to answer the problems. And because this is an angle bisector, we know that this point J is the same distance away from each side length. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. So if you have some markers and pencils, that might be helpful to highlight. If you drew this on a paper and highlighted it with colors, might help you as well, because there's a lot of lines in this picture. And it's good to know which one's which. So the blue lines are the distance the point J is from each side, and we learned that it's the same distance from each side. So I can say, I'm going to use tick marks to show that DJ is equal to JF and JE. Knowing that, they're wanting us to find the measure of JF. Well, JF is this one right here. Did they give me the measure of JF at all? Nope. So we're going to have to do some extra work to find it. Well, I know that inside this triangle itself, there are several right triangles. So remember, a right triangle looks like this with a 90-degree little box, and there's several of those in there. Let's see if I can use the knowledge that I have about right triangles to answer these questions. So I see that I notice is this one right here. I'm going to highlight it in red. They gave me 2 side lengths of that triangle. They said that the hypotenuse, or this longest side, is 15, and the longest leg is 12. And if I can find the shortest leg, which is that blue side, I'll be able to find my JF. If I find JE, I can find JF because they're equal to each other. So I'm going to use one of the most famous formulas that you have used and seen before. It's called the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. I'm going to use the Pythagorean theorem to help you solve. Remember, your hypotenuse is always your C. The longest side is always your C. So I'm going to say C is 15. And I'm going to say my shortest leg here is X. So I'm going to say A is X. It doesn't really matter here which one's which. Okay? like so. And you can put this into a solving for x calculator, or you can solve it by hand. I'm going to go ahead and solve this by hand. This is 144. 15 times 15 is 225. I want to get my x by itself, so I'm going to subtract 144 from both sides. And that reduces to 0, which leaves me with x squared equals 81. And if you have an x squared, the only way to get rid of that square is to square root both sides. And the square root of x squared is x, because the square root is just getting rid of that 2 on that x. And what is the square root of 81? What times what equals 81, right? And that would be 9. So that means that we have found this side length to be 9, which means all the blue is 9, which means that JF is also 9. All right. Okay, let's find the measure of angle JAC. So J, you can trace J to A to C. So this highlighted angle in green is what I'm looking for. Well, I know that each angle is being cut in half. So to find the measure of angle, if I can find the measure of angle B and the measure of angle C, because they gave me angles on those two, I can subtract the angles from 180 and get my angle for JAC. So the measure of angle B is going to be 34 times 2, right? Because it's being cut in half, so it just got to, add it, 34 plus 34, or 34 times 2 gives me 68. The measure of angle C has been cut in half, so I'm just going to multiply this by 2 to get the whole angle. So 32 times 2 gives me 64. And now, if I add them, I can subtract it from 180 to find my angle A. So I can say 68 plus 64 is 132. Subtract that from 180, because we know the total angles inside of a triangle equals 180. So to find the measure of angle A, I got to go 180 minus 132 equals 48. So the measure of angle A equals 48 degrees. But they don't want the whole angle A, they want half of it, because it's being cut in half. So we need half of angle A. So that means I got to divide 48 divided by 2 is 24. So that would be the measure of angle JAC. So I know those are several steps. So the first thing, I'm going to go ahead and put steps 1 and 2. So step 1 is to find the measure of A and C. Step 2 is adding them together and then subtract to get the total, and subtracting them from 180, because if we can subtract it from 180, we can find the measure of angle A. After finding the measure of angle A, that'd be step 3, we divide it by 2, because they don't want the whole angle A. They want half of angle A. So we got to then divide the answer by 2 to get our final answer. Divide angle A by 2 to get our final answer. Okay? This is not easy, but it's a challenge, which is what our purpose is to challenge you to strengthen your mind and using logical thinking skills and figuring, okay, what's my first step, what's my second step? This is going to be so valuable for you in the long term. In whatever career you take, you will have developed your logical thinking skills, and you'll be, do so much better in whatever career you choose in the future. So have fun with this, and I hope it made sense.